All right, I want you to picture this in your mind, almost like a scene from a movie shot in ultra-high definition. Just imagine a humble, ancient wooden table set before someone. Before they even take that very first bite of food, they pause, they close their eyes, and they whisper a blessing. And in that exact fraction of a second, it's as if a quiet, unseen radiance completely fills the room. Hidden spiritual channels literally open up from above, and pure light descends, drawing actual sustenance from the highest realms directly into the physical food on that table. It creates this incredible atmosphere of profound trust, of humility, and of continuous divine flow. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are going to explore the absolutely fascinating cosmic machinery that is hiding right behind the mundane, everyday act of eating. We're unpacking the ancient Zoharic concept of Ish Emunot Rav Barakot, which essentially asks, how does a person of faith actually multiply blessings? How do they transform the simple everyday act of daily sustenance into a highly synchronized, authenticated connection with the divine? It's an amazing journey, so let's get into it.
Okay, here is our roadmap for today. We'll start with the actual purpose of eating. Then we'll check out the interface, the specific mechanics of a blessing, the visual colors of divine energy, how this nourishes the 5 levels of the soul, and finally, we'll wrap up with the ultimate sustenance.
Starting with Section 1, the purpose of eating and elevating fallen sparks. To really grasp this, we have to start with a massive metaphysical question.
Think about it. Why do humans who possess these incredibly elevated spiritual souls even need to consume dense, physical food just to survive? Well, as this text from Lakuti Hashas reveals, it goes way, way beyond basic biology. Eating is, quite literally, a spiritual rescue mission. The text explains that at the very dawn of creation, there was this cosmic event known as the breaking of the vessels. This event scattered divine energy all throughout the physical world. So these trapped fragments of shattered spiritual vessels, what the texts call fallen sparks, are actually embedded deep inside our physical food. They are just sitting there waiting for us to elevate them back up to their original source.
So the main takeaway here is that your lunch isn't just about calories and macros. It is a highly targeted cosmic operation. Honestly, if you were trying to explain this to a kid, you could use a video game analogy, right? You tell them that by saying a blessing, you are literally charging up the food with a special, secret code to gain extra life energy and release trapped points hidden in the game world. But for us adults, we can look at this as pure cosmic engineering. When you approach food with faith, it's an authenticated request-response cycle. Your trust establishes a persistent connection to the ultimate source, which then enables the continuous provisioning of resources to the entire universe. It's a huge responsibility.
Moving on to Section 2, the interface, the table, and the blessing. So how exactly do we interface with this massive, invisible cosmic system? Well, the beauty of it is that you don't need a supercomputer. The interface is sitting right there in your own dining room. The text Share Kedusha says, "Stand in awe at your table, for you eat at the table of the king." This single concept transforms your standard, mundane piece of furniture into a sacred altar. But here is the key. You have to ask for sustenance from the Holy King before you prepare and eat the food. By pausing and asking first, you perfectly align your physical action with the divine flow. You're acknowledging the source. Your dining room essentially becomes the authorized terminal where this cosmic transaction goes down.
Think of faith, or umuna, as your continuous, authenticated connection to a central cloud server. Now the server has a firewall up. Eating without a blessing? That is essentially an unauthorized download. The texts are pretty intense about this, stating that eating without blessing actively robs the divine flow from the specific Sephirots of Tiferet and Malkut. It's a breach of the system. But eating with a blessing acts as a secure, authenticated request. It successfully unlocks the firewall and securely routes provision directly from the divine treasury right into your physical reality.
All right, Section 3, the divine flow, mechanics of a blessing.
Now that we know we've securely logged into the system, we need to ask, when we actually whisper those ancient words of a blessing, where does that spiritual energy originate? Which specific cosmic servers are we pinging to get that download?
The Prayet's chime maps this out exactly like a computer's routing protocol. It is incredibly precise. Remember, Emunah, faith, is rooted all the way down in the Sephirah of Malchut, which is the sphere of faithful reception. So when you start the blessing and say Baruch, blessed, you ping the central server of Bina, the realm of profound understanding. Then the next word, Atah, or you, takes that energy and actively draws it downward into Hesed, the sphere of loving kindness. Next,
Uttering the divine name channels that flow squarely into Tiferet, the sphere of harmony. From Tiferet, this sustenance flows down through Yesod, the foundation, and finally pours into Malchut, the receiver. This right here is the exhaustive mechanics behind the phrase Rav Berachot, why a person of faith multiplies the blessing. By establishing this connection, you activate the singular source. The energy passes through the two pillars of mercy and judgment. It flows across the 7 lower emotional Sephirot, which completes the full array of 10, and it travels down the 18 pathways of life to manifest in our world. Which, by the way, is exactly why tradition mandates 100 blessings a day. You are literally maintaining a perfect 10 by 10 grid of authenticated cosmic connection.
Let's look at Section 4, Colors of Divine Energy.
What's absolutely wild is that this energy isn't just some abstract philosophical concept. According to the Zohar, this flow possesses specific visual wavelengths. The ancient texts map specific color shifts to these divine attributes as the energy travels. It starts as this deep, resonant blue or silver of faith down in Malkut. Then, as the connection reaches all the way up into Hesed, it turns into a blinding, pure white light of mercy. As it interacts with Gevura, the energy flashes red and gold, which represents precise judgment and the setting of boundaries. Finally, as it stabilizes in Tiferet, it radiates this beautiful, harmonious green and sapphire. So, when you bless your food, you are quite literally pulling a dynamic, shifting prism of divine light straight into your meal.
And all of these shifting colors perfectly synthesize into the number 5. The Zoharic texts explain that these specific color wavelengths actually combine together within Tiferet to create a brilliant royal purple, which is known as Argaman. This purple represents the harmonized energy of 5 majestic archangels, angels like Uriel, Michael, and Raphael, who basically govern and oversee this entire cosmic routing system.
Which brings us to Section 5, the receivers, nourishing the 5 souls.
So, the cosmic machinery is whirring, the colorful lights are flashing, the energy is downloaded, but who is the actual receiver of all this? We have to shift our focus from the cosmos above to the human framework below. The text Shahar Gugulim outlines that we don't just have one simple soul, we actually have 5 interconnected levels of the soul, and each one corresponds directly to 5 distinct cosmic origins. You have the Nefesh, which is your action-oriented soul from the world of Asya, the Ruach, your emotional soul from Yetzirah, the Neshama, your intellectual soul from Briah, and finally, Chaya and Yechidah, which are your transcendent living connections to the absolute highest emanations. When you sit down and eat with a mindful blessing, you aren't just filling your stomach, you are individually pinging and nourishing each of these 5 completely distinct spiritual bandwidths.
And I can't stress enough how massive the stakes are here. This brings us to the concept of Gilgalim, or reincarnations. The texts make it very clear that properly elevating these sparks through the mindful, authenticated act of eating directly aids the perfection of these specific soul levels. If a certain level of your soul isn't perfected in this lifetime, the system requires it to return. So by simply eating your daily meals with the proper intention and faith, you are literally actively evolving and completing the reincarnation cycle of your own internal soul architecture. It's truly profound.
Finally, Section 6, the ultimate spiritual sustenance.
This all leads us to a really fascinating paradox. If eating is the primary way we elevate these sparks and connect to the divine, what exactly happens on the days in the sacred calendar when we are specifically commanded not to eat? Let's contrast our mundane daily routine with a day like Yom Kippur. Our mundane, weekly eating is fundamentally an external process. We are being nourished by the outer, physical manifestations of the divine. But on Yom Kippur, fasting isn't about mere starvation or suffering. The texts reveal that it is essentially a state of inner eating. The physical firewall is completely bypassed. Because your faith and intention are perfectly aligned on that day, a persistent direct connection is established, and your soul is fed internally, directly by the 5 inner voices, or prayers, that originate straight from the high server of Bina. You are being sustained by the pure source code itself. No physical food required.
So the next time you sit down at your table, I really want you to ask yourself, is this next meal just a plate of physical food, or are you about to initiate an authorized, beautifully engineered connection to the divine? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.